right, we started on a Monday opening, and now welcome Tuesday here on the program. The longest opening in radio history, still with us here on the show. JD here, good to have you on board. We thank you, as always, for carving out some of your time to spend it with us here on the program. Well, we like our flying a little turbulent, our women a little crazy, and our politics a little messy. Marcella working the dials, Brad producing the program, emails at the website, jerrydoyle.com. And the poll question up there for you today, which actually the results are throwing me a little bit here. Here's the setup. And it starts with assuming, and I know if it's makes an ass out of you and me, I get all that. But assuming the U.S. government really secured our borders and cracked down on illegals being hired and dropped ESL, English as a second language, and mainstreamed the 11 million illegals in the country, the question is, would you consider blanket amnesty, yes or no? 62% of the people say no. 38% say yes. Say what you have to say there at the website or here at 800-876-4123. Or forever hold your peace. I would have thought, really? 62% say no. You would not consider blanket amnesty. Now, by mainstreamed, I mean you cull out the evildoers, as George Bush likes to call them. You know, the criminals, people with records, convictions, didn't respond to deportation orders, people that are just here. They're not going anywhere. And this is all a big deal with regard to the presidential movement as to who is going to, I guess, pander enough to the Hispanic community. Does anybody out there not think amnesty is going to happen in some way, shape, or form at some point in time, that this is just the slow creep towards, as we talk about on the program, creeping incrementalism? Because right now, whether it's Marco Rubio or Mitt Romney or Barack Obama or Joe Biden or whoever, they're all just going, well, we have to take a look at the children who are here from no fault of their own. And if you start with the children, you end up with what? Everyone. If you start with cigarettes, you end up with what? Slurpees. You see how it works? It's just the slow grind on us to get them to where they want it to be. And along the way, it looks like we're having these victories along the way. But that's just the way, unfortunately, it works for them and not for us. But what do you do with 11 million people? I almost broke into song there from The Sound of Music. What do you do with a problem like Maria? What do you do with 11 million illegals? Send them home? Now, over the weekend, I was looking at the highlights of the not-so-exciting Niagara Falls tightrope walk, which is what a lot of politicians are doing right now with regard to illegal immigration. They're walking the high wire. They're trying to balance between the rule of law and pandering to the Hispanic community in an effort to buy votes. They're walking the high wire. Mitt Romney says, well, you see, it's really more problematic. It's a short-term solution, but we need a long-term fix. He wants to say amnesty, wink, wink, nod, nod, but he won't. Marco Rubio, who backs some version of the DREAM Act, wink, wink, nod, nod. Well, you see, this is really problematic because it actually hinders a long-term solution. Barack Obama, who just doesn't give a rat's patoot about the rule of law, doesn't matter whether it's immigration, doesn't matter whether it's defense of marriage, it doesn't matter whether it's education, internet gambling, medical marijuana. The imperial president doesn't seem to care about the rule of law. But what do you do with 11 million illegals? And again, assuming, the funny thing about the whole event that took place over Niagara Falls, which was a complete snore. What did it have, Brad? How long did it take this guy to get across the high wire with the harness on?
About 25 minutes.
Yeah, and the world's record is 6 minutes and 21 seconds, set back in 1897 or something like that. So, wow, look at that, a 400% increase, kind of like government. But it was a non-event. But who greeted this guy on the other side? Customs. They're serious about who's coming into their country, Canada, America's attic. I don't say that in a derogatory way towards Canada, but it's like your attic. You don't go up there a lot, but when you do, you look around and go, wow, I forgot this was up here. Kind of cool. Maybe I should visit more often. Maybe I should go up the attic more often. Hey, it's kind of like Canada. But the first thing this guy was greeted with was, show me your papers. Now, I would have to imagine that the Canadian authorities knew who this guy was. I'd have to imagine that the television cameras and the crowds that had assembled and the permits and the paperwork that was all put in place, they had a pretty good idea that this guy coming into their country was probably the guy who it was supposed to be. Probably just a formality to go through the paperwork. Now, maybe what we need to do with immigration is across the Rio Grande, we just stretch tight ropes. Then we just say, okay, if you can make it, great. We'll watch you. Take a little bit of time. And then we'll have customs people on the other end just going, but what do we give Boeing? What was it, $10 billion to put together that failed border security program, which was just a corporate giveaway by politicians? They put together off-the-shelf technology with a couple of new things, put a bow on it, rolled it out, and said, here you go, here's your new border security program. And it failed miserably. What a shocker. More corporatism, more crony capitalism, more crapitalism. Here, at least, they got the guy coming across the border. The way they congratulated him was, show me your papers. Now, in this country, we're not even close to that. But what do you do with 11 million illegals? And this is a big issue. Does Romney not answer the question, which he did over the weekend with Bob Schieffer on CBS? I mean, we talk about how the Republicans make a point that Obama just does whatever he wants to do. We can't do that because we're a nation of laws, and without laws, what do we have? Oh, we have what we have. But there's a very simple question that Bob Schieffer, in the first clip, asked Mitt Romney. Barack Obama going around Congress deciding that with an executive order, he was going to allow the first 800,000 of those who are here illegally to be here legally and to get work permits, giving them permanent temporary status until such time as somebody gives them amnesty. Bob Schieffer says to Mitt Romney, would you repeal this order if you became president?
Would you repeal this order if you became president?
Well, let's step back and look at the issue. I mean, first of all, we have to secure the border. We need to have an employment verification system. And then with regards to these kids who were brought in by their parents through no fault of their own, there needs to be a long-term solution so they know what their status is.
What was the question, Mitt? Would you repeal this order if you became president? Welcome to the Mr. Obvious Show. I'm Mitt Romney. And Mr. Obvious would like to point out we need to secure the border. No kidding. We need to have an employment verification system. No kidding. And when it comes to the kids, what do we always say? Well, it's all for the children. And the children were brought here through no fault of their own. So now we have no fault immigration with regard to illegal aliens. Bob Schieffer, let's take a second bite of the question, shall we? Would you repeal this?
But would you repeal this?
Well, it would be overtaken by events, if you will, by virtue of my putting in place a long-term solution with legislation which creates law that relates to these individuals such that they know what their setting is going to be, not just for the term of a president, but on a permanent basis.
Sausage right there. You just watch sausage get made. Would you overturn the president's decision? Can you see the wheels in Romney's head going round and round like the wheels on the bus? How do I not answer this, but answer it in such a way that the Hispanic community knows I'm pandering to them and the rule of law crowd thinks that I'm on their side too? How about you answer the question, Mitt? Would you repeal this order if you became president? Yes or no? Yes.
I won't keep on about this, but just to make sure I understand, would you leave this in place while you worked out a long-term solution, or would you just repeal it?
We'll look at that. We'll look at that setting as we reach that. But my anticipation is I'd come into office and say we need to get this done on a long-term basis, not this kind of a stopgap measure.
What a dork! Just an absolute dork. Yes or no? Would you or wouldn't you? What about Obamacare? First day in office, I'm going to repeal it. But now they're talking about replacing parts of it. Let's see, what we have to do is we have to minimize the damage that Obamacare does, and we have to put things in place. It's all about semantics. Now, I would have to think that there were more people that would respond to Mitt Romney saying, we can't reward lawbreakers. We have to be a nation of laws. And we can't have an imperial president that's ruling any way he wants to rule or not defending laws that are on the books. And I believe the President of the United States takes an oath that says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Constitution of the United States. Kind of a little guidebook you follow along, the rules of the road, kind of the things the way we're supposed to do things. There's things that have been set in place that we're supposed to follow along with Mitt Romney. Would you overturn this decision by a president who is not following through on his oath of office? Well, watch me. Oh, over here. What? Come, answer the question. You know why he won't? Because he is like every other slimeball politician that's out there. Because it's all about the answer that's going to get them elected instead of doing the right thing. And I tell you this, folks, if you do the right thing, you will be rewarded. Just ask Chris Christie in New Jersey, John Kasich in Ohio, and Scott Walker in Wisconsin.
The Jerry Doyle Show.
Oh, hey, here's some good news. You know this home affordable refinance program, the big government program to make sure that people can stay in their homes? Well, guess what? Homeowners are going to save about $2.5 billion by refinancing under the HARP program. And guess how much banks are going to make? 6 times that. Oh, wow, yet one more program designed for us to benefit them, and they tell us it's all being done in our best interest. I have a plethora. Google it if you don't know what plethora is, of stories right up that alley. 800-876-4123 is the number. I'm Jerry Doyle. Join me.
This is the Jerry Doyle Show.